Welcome back to Construct Your Life. Man, I tell you what, I'm tired. I'm sweating. The emotional roller coaster. I'm doing this new thing where I'm bringing people on and we're doing a 3-part series. My man, Brian, takes us through the emotions of closing a business. We do a 3-part series. You got to dive in. You got to share the story. So many ups and downs, so much fun. But I am sweating and need to go change my shirt. So y'all dive in, and we'll see you soon, guys.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome to Construct Your Life. We're doing a 3-part series with my man, Brian. Dude, here's what's crazy, right? I help real estate investors all the time get their first deal because it took me like 7 years. The chasm to jump over the canyon to get your first deal emotionally, it feels like you're on a runway behind a plane and the plane's taking off. That's what that feels like. That rush of energy. So we're going to break down a 3-part series about trying to get a deal across the finish line. So give us a little context.
Yeah, so talk about an emotional roller coaster. It is for sure that. And, you kind of go into it with all the momentum and all the steam and the excitement, especially when you get a deal under LOI, because you have all these visions of all these things you're going to do once you get in the door, but you forget about, or maybe you're just not aware of the things that it actually takes to get it closed. So I embarked on that journey probably about 9 months ago. And I found a business that I was super excited about and ready to really take on, and saw all those visions for the future.
So before you go into that, we're gonna piece it out here. When you say excitement, that's a general word. People, they go to the 100th point before they've gone to point 2. When you say excitement, what excites you about the deal? Like, is it financial freedom? Is it the ability to run your own shop? Like, what is the actual emotions that are going through you?
Yeah. So for me, I've already kind of been on my own entrepreneurial journey in the past, right? So I've bootstrapped, 2 companies and been a part of a SaaS startup. So, for me, I've already been on the other side of running and operating a business. So that excitement obviously is always there, but that wasn't what was really driving. For me, it was being able to get back in the ring, and finding a business that I could step into day one and provide a lot of value for, and a lot of value in, through my experiences and through the things that I've gone through in my entrepreneurial journey. So it was more about, I found something that fit my deal box, so to speak. In the territory, the location I was looking for, in the right type of industry, and was at that perfect stage that I could step in and really help um, get the growth going and really skyrocket the growth from where the founder currently has taken the company to already.
That's why I loved it. That's why I knew this would be great, because it wasn't about money. It was, more importantly, like, how hard is it? And this is for everybody out there listening. How hard is it to stay disciplined to the box that you have created and not chase the rabbit when you're looking for a deal?
It is incredibly difficult, right? Because a lot of times you'll look at the teaser page, right, of what the broker puts out there, and 90% of the time it's not accurate. So you can't get caught up in that initial, potential earnings, because what you'll find once you dive deeper into it is not as fruitful as it may appear. So you just got to find something that that you got to stay disciplined in that respect and not get caught up in the, oh, this looks too good to be true, because most of the times it is. And you don't want to get down into a deal to come to find out that it's really not doing $1 million in EBITDA. It's really only doing $600,000 in EBITDA, and it really can take the wind out of your sails if you're focused on just that number.
And so I don't know. And I used to do a lot of drugs. So you're talking to a guy who's had a good time.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been a better feeling when you get an email back saying your LOI was accepted. I really don't. And
Yeah.
it's not for the fact that the deal's going to get done. It's that the opportunity that you saw, it's almost a validation of I saw what I saw and somebody saw the value in what I saw, and let's figure out if we can make this thing happen. That's more what it's about. It's not that you're closing the deal. It's that maybe I'm not crazy, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. At that point, it's you know, I don't know if validation is the right term to use, more so than because the sellers will accept a deal if it's good enough for them, and if it is what they're looking for. So I think in today's ecosystem and in today's climate, so to speak, it's the challenge is that you've beat another searcher, right? And your offer was good enough, that the seller decided to choose you instead. And it could be for a number of reasons, not because you have, or you provided a higher asking price, but it could be because he related to you or she related to you, related to your story. And they're choosing you to then carry forth this business into the future. So I think that's where it's more of the acceptance of the seller, yes, likes my offer monetarily, but also believes that I'm the person to take over this business and lead it into the next 5 to 10 years.
And so highlight that a little bit more. And this is my number one lesson that I don't think a lot of people understand. It took me a long time to understand this. Price is not really, it's not really the most important thing in a deal.
No, 100%. And obviously there is importance in that, but you got to remember a lot of these businesses are run by individuals that have started this company from scratch, and they did it 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and it maybe their second generation in some cases, and they just don't have anyone to leave it to continue that legacy. So it means something to them. They have their sweat equity in it as well, and they have their same emotions tied to it. It's their baby in some cases, and in most cases. So they're looking for someone to come in and treat their employees right, treat the company right, continue their legacy. And if you come in with a attitude of just looking at Excel spreadsheets and just looking at the numbers, they're probably going to turn them off. So if you can, be genuine and be curious and really relate and want to know how the seller got from point A to point B, I think that'll definitely put you ahead of the pack when it comes to selecting potentially your LOI, versus someone from private equity who is just going to beat them up over price and not really share that same connection. So,
guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net. And how do you practice keeping your emotions in check?
Well, it's challenging for me because I'm a very emotional guy. Like how I'm feeling about every situation all the time, and literally sitting right here on my shoulder. So, I have a group that I chat with and talk to weekly on a weekly basis. Another group of searchers, and I also have a somewhat of a peer group of individuals that are also entrepreneurs. So whenever I'm having like a bad day or emotional day, I get someone on the phone and just kind of vent for a minute and
Mhm.
just unravel all those emotions, which is really helpful because a lot of times you just need someone to shout it out, right, and shout it to, and typically for me that helps because then once I get
Mhm.
it off my chest, I feel okay. I'm not so high or so low. I just take it as it comes, and then whatever challenge is in front of me, just try to find a solution to it.
And what would you, if you had to classify, let's say stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of submitting an LOI emotionally, if you had to mark the stage, what would you say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is emotionally the roller coaster.
Submitting is actually, I would say, um, I'd say very, I wouldn't say gratifying, but I'd say on the high side because you actually found a deal that you believe in, right? That you feel comfortable with. At some point, you've probably ran it by a bank just to for them to take a peek at it, just to make sure that they're comfortable. So you probably have, buy-in from them. They're like, yeah, this is a good deal. You're potentially you're the right person for this. So I think it is probably somewhere around a 3 to a 4 on the scale of a positive high, in the cycle, especially if it's a 5 once it gets accepted, right? Once the seller comes back and says, yes, I've accepted, I want to accept, your LOI, I want to move forward with you. It's super gratifying. Fortunately for me, I didn't have a lot of competition in my deal. I didn't have a situation where there was 5 or 6 people bidding on it. So I didn't have that same level of excitement, so to speak, when the deal was actually
Sure.
accepted. So
And what's your, I have my own thoughts about certain things, right? Obviously, we're aware that landscaping, HVAC, plumbing, electric, those are hot markets, big PE firms. Let's say you're going out there and you're doing a deal, right? And I think skill sets can be molded in different sectors. What would be your advice to anybody out there searching? Maybe look at some markets or sectors that other people aren't looking just to get that first deal under your belt. Like, what's your thought process to that?
I think you just need to be open minded, right? I think you need to look at a lot of deals and understand that there's value in some niche markets for sure, right? In some niche businesses that serve a singular purpose. Um, and it all depends on what your long term goals are too. And everyone's different. Every deal is different. Like I looked at a company that did that supplied plush for claw machines. Like
Mm,
all they did was supply stuffed animals, as they call them in the industry, plush, for various arcade companies and claw machine rentals. And um, they had the rights for certain, like
I am so blown. I am so blown away right now. Now you're making me rethink every moment. There's one at a local restaurant, and I'm like, that. There's a company that
yeah.
does that.
There's a company that all they did was supply the plush inside of the claw machines, and they had all the rights to like characters like the Simpsons, and they had NFL, and they had Marvel. So it wasn't like the cheap, Chinese knockoff stuff. Well, they had that too, but they actually had like the actual real licensed character plush that they supplied, and they were making like they had top line revenue of $2.5 million a year, and they were making like $900,000. It was like, and all they were doing was literally supplying orders to these companies. And I was like, I never would have looked at that business or thought, hey, I want to own a company that supplies stuffed animals for claw machines. Like you just don't think about these
dude,
things.
dude. This guy told me one time he's got a big buyout fund, and they have a factory in Kansas City that
Hmm.
provides the felt inside glove boxes of cars.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
super.
you're just like, what? Like
Yeah.
that's to me, and if I'm just talking about me personally, that's what intrigues me the most about the business world. There's so
Yeah.
many things. It
Yeah.
sounds ridiculous, right? But I bring it back to Risky Business, that movie. and he talks about the little plastic things on the end of your shoelaces.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was like, somebody created this. Like, that is really, in my opinion, what attracts me the most to business is how you unearth these things like you just did. It blew me away. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't realize that until you start looking, right? And so until you start that searcher process, and then so typically what happens is that either you come from your MBA program and you decide that I don't want to go to Wall Street, I want to go buy a business, or you have some type of management or entrepreneurial background already, and you're looking to acquire a business, right? Whatever your pathway to search is, typically those are some of the common ones. But once you start that process, you start looking at all these businesses. And for me, that's what I did. I didn't have any geographical limitations because I just wanted to look at a bunch of different businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there are some out there that you can run remotely. You don't necessarily have to be limited geographically. So I wanted to learn about those as well. But I also wanted to learn, about just any type of niche business that I could come across, because there's so much opportunity out there and things that you just don't even look at or think about, like shoelaces or, plush inside of a claw machine. So
I love it. So while we wrap up this first part of the emotions of getting a deal done, talk about the transition from, ooh, I'm very excited, right? And then we'll kind of hit it off here. Ooh, I'm very excited. I put in my LOI. They accepted it, to holy crap. Now I'm in due diligence, and the clock is, for lack of a better word, sometimes the clock is against you, but kind of you're moving into where you need to start removing your emotions in the deal, which is the hard part.
Yeah. So you got to be ready to uncover anything in that process, right? You got to move quickly. You got to obviously get all the information that you need to make decisions. And you got to prepare yourself for bad news, because you're probably going to get some level of bad news through due diligence, whether it's, like I mentioned before, SDE, or the EBITDA not, as so depicted on the one pager, right? Or even in the sim for that matter. And in my situation, I had, and I know this sounds crazy, but this actually happened. They were including PPP loan as seller discretionary earnings on the sim that I received from the broker.
Ugh.
And I figured that once due diligence happened and I got a closer look at the tax returns, I immediately noticed almost $110,000 worth of income that shouldn't have been included as part. It doesn't even count as SDE, like or EBITDA for that matter. So that right there was a big shot. No, this company isn't producing this much. Matter of fact, it's producing at least $100,000 less than what was advertised.
I love it. That's perfect, guys. For anybody that didn't know, PPP loans, government loans assisted through COVID. So technically, sellers put it on their balance sheet when technically it was unrealized revenue. So it's a false narrative. Seen it a million times. So that's part one. We're gonna wrap that up. I'm gonna leave you. It's like a cliffhanger, guys. You got to come for episode 2, where we're gonna qualify it as the valley, because it is the valley of the deal for sure. So y'all tune in for episode 2, and we'll see you soon.